What another interesting entry. Remember, guys, there's still time, and we've got up for grabs 150,000 Rand. With that being said, our next section is a panel discussion. You don't want to miss this. It's always heartwarming to hear some of our SME stories. I'm going to hand over to Sinesh to lead our panel discussion.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. I hope everybody's feeling nice and energetic after that lunch. We have some real VIPs here with us. Some sitting, around, and two particularly on the stage today. So I must say, it's really a privilege and honor to actually be sitting here with you today. My name is Sanesh Bihari. I look after the small medium enterprise business at the MTN Group across all our different markets. Today, just to give a little bit of context before we introduce our VIPs, is that we wanted to come and share some real inspiration, with all our SMEs, both here in the room and across the markets. Just to give our panelists an idea, we had over 1,000 RSVPs to stream online, SMEs across the different markets that we serve. And we have about roughly 40 SMEs sitting here amongst us inside the room. So this is really about coming and telling an inspiring story. How some of the SMEs, particularly in this case in South Africa, we started here, how they've navigated turbulent market conditions over the years and how they've been able to extract growth. And it's really about an inspirational story for everybody, for the SMEs, for MTN, for us all to learn and see, what can we take out of these books. So without further ado, I think let us introduce our VIPs. So we start off with Vui Zondi. We had an opportunity to actually interact before we come up here on stage. Quite a bubbly personality, I must say. But really some serious accolades here. So the founder and MD of Corium Skincare. And Corium Skincare is a natural skincare brand. I'm not going to steal your thunder, so I'm going to leave you to go through the full details of it. But maybe just to talk about some of the achievements, top newcomer, Nedbank Small Business Excellence Awards 2019, 50 Faces of Wits Business School 2018, Mail and Guardian Top 200 Young South African Businesses and Entrepreneurship in 2017, etc., etc. Mentions by Standard Bank, etc. So some really, really serious accolades. So welcome, Vui. We're looking forward to this.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a gracious introduction. I'm always feeling a bit shy, but I'll own up to that today. Thank you.
Perfect. Welcome. And then we go over to Chivumo. I think who's also been here this morning, spent some time with us, and now here to talk. The co-founder and managing director of Lamo Solar, based in Gauteng. I think it's a really, really appropriate time for us to be talking about solar, given the challenges that our country and economy faces. And also, I think Shivumo will go through his business, so I don't want to take anything from him about that. But also some really great references. I think 1 year a nod from President Cyril Ramaphosa himself. Various posts on LinkedIn, some hard-hitting professors in the academic industry also quoting him. There's also one on Green Africa, talking about a hugely successful CEO. So also to you, Chivomo, welcome, and really looking forward to it.
Thank you so much. It brings great delight and pleasure to us to be amongst other entrepreneurs and to share lessons with everyone.
Perfect. So let's get into it. I think maybe just to give a sense, I think both of you have been here now. We've experienced the conference. You've looked at the different exhibitors, had some time to interact with some of the MTN staff and also other business owners here. What's been your sense of it? What's the pulse of the conference? How have you felt it? Maybe we start with you, Vui. Yeah.
So when I just came and I sat in a corner and I thought I want to observe. And for me, I think coming from a consultant background, you always want to observe the people. So when I sat and you were speaking to someone, you're like, oh, these are people going to be on my panel. I'm like, is that her? And I was like, no, I'm still sitting in a corner. I just wanted to observe. And I just wanted to observe the people. Because I think most important in the organization are the people. So I just wanted to feel, what is the culture like? You know, how do people interact with each other? What language do we use? So what most impressed me was that it felt very warm. It felt very much to be a space with lots of knowledge sharing. And so I think that's what I've taken from the small time that I spent before coming in.
Absolutely. I think we really sensed, a real buzz, a lot of energy in the day. Yeah. So Shivumo, over to you. How did you feel it?
Well, it's always quite heartwarming to be around fellow entrepreneurs who are trying to shift ground against all odds. I think it is a fallacy when you're told that being, a business owner or an entrepreneur is all glory. It's all exciting and fun, and you get to do what you want to do with your time.
Yes.
It is far from the truth, and it is only when one finds themselves around fellow entrepreneurs where one can begin to make sense of their own personal journey and draw inspiration and courage from what every other person is doing. So this environment, this group of people are my family. I love being around this kind of spaces. Yeah.
Perfect. Wonderful. Wonderful. And thanks for contributing to that energy. I think, I think we, like I said, we interacted a little bit, but yeah, and also for visiting and being here earlier in the day. I think it really added, to this event. But let's head into, your actual business, to start with. So maybe let's talk a little bit about the story, of your businesses. How you extracted growth. We spoke about the turbulent market conditions. We've had COVID-19. Now we've got load shedding. It hasn't been, an easy market, in South Africa. Even if we look outside our borders, but particularly I think in South Africa we face some serious challenges. So tell us your story. Let's maybe we start with you. Give us a sense of your story and how you were able to extract some really good growth during difficult market conditions.
Sure. So I always think I'm an accidental entrepreneur. So growing up, I really thought I was going to be a corporate climber. I thought I was going to get, to the C-suite, to the executive level. Even 10 years ago, had you asked me, would you have your own business? I probably would have said, no, I'm a corporate girly. I'm going to be a corporate girly. And so I think for me, how I found a home in entrepreneurship is that I liked problem solving.
Yeah.
So I worked in construction and listed property, and then I moved over to management consulting where I was doing strategy consulting. So in that environment, we were doing a lot of problem solving. So I decided, let me start a business as a side hustle. And I think that's a very relatable story. In the South African environment, a lot of people have side hustles, whether you're selling Avon, whether there's a small family business, whatever it is, it's really built into our communities to have something else other than your day job. And that's how the business started. Always being a girly girl, always interested in grooming and personal care, which was very much removed from my actual educational background, because my educational background was BSc, it was construction, it was property, nothing to do with beauty. So it started as a hobby. It is very removed, actually. It's like opposites. So it started as a hobby, side hustle, my 5 to 9 after my 9 to 5. And the business started to scale and grow. And I think what made me an entrepreneur is not particularly my interest in beauty or personal care. It was more my interest in solving problems for people. So I realized there was a gap in the market, and I realized I had the skills to actually, to solve the gaps. And that's what entrepreneurship is defined at. You're problem solving for the consumer. And that's really the story. So then Karim Skincare was born. We put it onto the internet, onto social media. It started to blow up. We had an online store. We started to have external listings on Faithful to Nature, Zando, platforms like that. So it literally started where I think most businesses are still trapped in that side hustle, sort of an environment. And I am really the poster child, I think, for accidental entrepreneurship.
Super. I think that may become a phrase now, this accidental entrepreneur. Good problem to have. But Shivumo, let's head over to you. Let's hear about your story, and your product and, how you've been able to extract growth. Yeah.
So Our entrepreneurship journey, and I say our because I make reference to my business partner, Mr. Elmon Koza, who's a very close friend of mine and is unable to join us here today. Our journey spans from university. Funny enough, I was paid for my cost of study was paid for, and I got a bursary from a coal mining firm. So I was previously mining a lot of coal before I realized that there was a cleaner, less dirtier form of energy, which is renewable energy. And this happened in our final year of study. So a lot like many other people in university, you go into university, you've built your very identity around your academia. So we were, nerds at the onset, and the exposure of being in a big city coming from a village like mine in Venda kind of seeped into my head, and I lost focus from my academia. At that time I started to have academic challenges, and the only way to get myself out of that was to find a job or to do something that would generate revenue. And that's when we started, a couple of businesses running tuck shops and all sorts of stuff. But in our final year of study, we proposed to do a feasibility study. This is over 10 years ago now, on a rooftop solar facility for one of the buildings on campus at a time when renewable energy or solar PV was taboo. We fortunately, had a very successful laboratory project where industry experts were able to come and view our product and had very positive things to say at the time. And post-graduation, we were left with either one of two options: to send our CVs out to all potential job opportunities or to continue with what we're doing. And by the grace of God, our then laboratory supervisor, Professor Willy Kronia, used to get a lot of calls. This is around 2013, when there was a lot of the second bout of load shedding. So a lot of people would call vets and ask them for solutions, and he referred one of the first clients that we currently boast ourselves on, and that is really how Lamo Solar was born. We've went on to servicing residential market, commercial and industrial markets. We currently, one of our flagship most proud moment is that we're currently powering up 100 homes in a village called Upper Blinkwater in the Eastern Cape. So yeah, that's the long and short of it.
Super, congratulations. I think that deserves a round of applause, right? 100 homes. Super, yeah, thank you. No, it's really, really inspiring, listening to these stories and seeing people, from our country, start up things and really get it to grow and scale. And not just to talk about the easy parts, like you said, there's a lot of bad parts and a lot of challenging parts. So maybe let's head to that, I think when I met Vui earlier, and she was talking about some of her business, and we were talking about, and when you get to that point where you now really want to scale the business, and there are a lot of things that go through your mind. Now you got to start looking at capital and the cost of capital, and how do you get that? Where do you start? There are so many things that you have to think about as a business. As you move through the different stages and you want to scale. You may be starting off a business and it's about cash flow. How do I make it from this day to the next 2 to the next 3? To 5 days. So, what is your having gone this far in your journey? Give us a sense of, what's the advice you give to the SMEs that are here today, that are online, to the continent at large in Africa. What's your advice to them? What's your inspiration to them, to really make it and to get to the stage that you are and even beyond? Yeah.
I'll start, it's fine. I think ladies first. So to go to that, I think there's a lot of misleading advice in the entrepreneurship sector, I think we speak a lot about follow your passion, just start with what you have. And that's not really truthful. I think we need to empower entrepreneurs that they need to research. One of the things that's missing, I think, in the conversation of entrepreneurship is that you need to scan your environment. You need to research. Who's your target consumer? How do they behave? What price are they willing to pay for your good or your service? And there's really, that's why I'm saying there's a gap. We're not speaking about the fact that almost education or academia or I don't know how, it has to support entrepreneurship. So for me, if I could speak to an entrepreneur that wants to start or is going to start, I would say that research You know, arm yourself with as much knowledge as possible, because it's not just about passion. You know, it is hard. It is hard to run a business, and you need to have as much knowledge, as much empirical evidence as you can on your side. And we don't speak about that enough. So I think alongside the passion, which is great, we've spoken a lot about the passion in the conversation, but research, scan your environment. Who are your competitors? Who's going to be your customer? How are you going to access the market? You know, what sort of capital is available in your space? If you need to go and borrow money, who are you going to be borrowing money from? So I also think I throw that challenge whenever I go to corporate, to say that in your ESD programs and the programs that you design for entrepreneurs, there needs to be an educational component.
Yeah.
We need to really, really empower entrepreneurs to understand things like costing a product. When I say my product is R1, how much of that R1 is markup? Have I accounted for my, my overheads? So things like that, I think that's what's missing in the entrepreneurship conversation. I think that's not the sexy part, right? We want the do it, start, follow your passion, and that's really like, it gets you going, but we need to now go to the nitty-gritty and the ugly stuff. So I think that's where I would want to concentrate. That's the gap I've seen in terms of entrepreneurship talks, the conversation around entrepreneurship, to say that scan your environment, try to get as much research as you can, try to get a very strong team. I think very much we glorify the solopreneur, we glorify creating personal brands out of businesses, but I think there's nothing that commends you more as an entrepreneur than being able to get a strong team. And those are my two things. So really just do your research and get a strong team from as early possible as you can.
Absolutely, I think really inspiring words there. And Shivumo, you wanna latch on to that one? Let's get your view as well.
Yeah, I can't agree with Vuyi any more than what she has just said. I think there's a quote which goes, when the rate of learning inside of an organization is slower than the rate of learning, or the rate of change outside, then the end is near. And that applies to pretty much every business. When I remember 10 years ago, solar modules that you could buy today for 3,000 rand, for example, were costing almost double the price, so around 5,500, and they were generating half the amount of power what the today's peak power you can get from a solar module. So if you're not learning, if you're not keeping up with the cost per watt of what you're selling, then you'll be left out in the cold with whatever you're selling. And I think this applies to every other business. But second to that, Vuyi mentioned a team and diversity and the source of competitiveness that one is able to garner from a diverse team and working with like-minded people. And I think we've enjoyed this right from the onset of our business, because I've got a business partner who is pretty much like me. He's not here today, but he's handling something else that I would otherwise would not be able to handle had I not been in a partnership with him. So I believe quite firmly in partnering up with the right people, motivated individuals who are able to drive a common vision towards achieving a common goal. So individual brilliance is really a thing of the past as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, well, I think thank you very much. It's been really, really inspiring. Thank you for your story. Thank you, for the words of wisdom, your advice to the different SMEs out there. And I'm sure, in future we'll reach out to you guys, as we continue. This is a long journey for MTN. We were speaking earlier in the day about this 40 million SMEs, across the continent, across the MTN footprint. And whilst, this presents a good opportunity for MTN, it's also a significant obligation that we have, to make sure that we work with the market, with SMEs, with people like yourselves, to support and to grow these businesses and to bring the right, growth levers there for SMEs. We spoke about things like skills development earlier. We spoke about things like access to market. I mean, you mentioned it. Access to finance. How do we manage cash flow? Access to infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera. So, we are on a journey here together, trying to, co-develop and build this market together. And I don't think there's anybody else better than the actual customers, the SMEs, the VIPs, because everything starts and stops with yourself. So I thank you very much. And thanks to everybody online and here with us. Until we meet again. Thank you.
Thank you.